do to start off today is start off with a legs up the wall pose. Keep a block or a book, something like that handy, just in case you want to go deeper, and I'll show you how to do that. And just find a wall that works for this one pose. It could be just, you know, the backside of a door. It could be a whole wall, whatever works for you. And as you're coming up to the legs up the wall, I like to always scoop my glutes wall first, and then I rest my shoulder down and raise the legs directly up to the wall. What this does is it makes it so I have less of that game of trying to scoop my glutes close to the wall. And then just let your legs rest upward and just start to check in with it. First, check in with the low back. If the low back is significantly lifting off the ground, what you're going to do is scoot yourself a little bit further away from the wall. If you're touching your glutes to the wall, the hips are solidly down, and you still want more of a stretch in your hamstrings, that's where you're going to use the block. So what you would do in that case is put the block up to the wall, and then place the backside of your ankles or heels onto the block. And what that does is push your legs further away from the wall so that you're bringing yourself into much more of the hamstring stretch. Occasionally there's people that are pretty flexible. I'm feeling pretty good today. So you can even add the second block in, or just whatever you're using to create that height, to have lots and lots of space away from the wall. So whatever distance, whatever amount, lets yourself feel like you're in a good hamstring stretch. There's no pressure on your low back. The whole back is able to easily be flat on the ground. But we're here, we're lifting the legs, and we're stretching through those hamstrings nice and passively. So start off here with the breath flowing. Take the 3-part yoga breath. Try to breathe into the belly. Continue to breathe such that the side ribs extend and even the collarbones rise. So much inflation into the torso. It's almost like we're less of a flesh bag, more of an air bag right now. So full of air. And with our exhale, we'll let those collarbones come down, side ribs in, belly in. Just continue those 3 parts over and over with our breath. Filling the lungs totally and completely. And just releasing in a slow, passive way. For me, the hamstrings represent the thing in my life that I'm stretching toward. Hamstrings have always been my tight area in life, and I constantly have to work at the flexibility in the hamstrings. It's like if I don't continuously stretch them out, it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, sometimes it feels like. And so we're taking lots of time today to get those hamstrings very long. So just imagine, what's that huge thing in your life that seems impossible right now? It's almost like we're trying to leap across the ocean to get to it. And that's metaphorically what we're trying to strengthen through our practice today. Keep that breath going. After a little while, you start to feel tingles in the feet just because the blood doesn't have nearly as much blood pressure in the feet. So that's the sign that we'll only be here for a couple of more breaths. Just let those deep inhales and exhales flow. 3 more cycles. After you finish the 3rd cycle, you can remove the blocks or the books, whatever you were using, if you were using it. And start to let the knees bend in. You're welcome to keep the feet onto the wall. And just kind of rock the knees and the low back left and right a couple of times. Eventually from here, we'll feel ready to roll over into a fetal position for a moment. Make sure to pause so that you get that wonderful rush of blood going back into the legs. Moving slow and steady, that's our purpose today. No sense of pressure to go too fast too soon. We'll take another wonderful deep inhale and a nice exhale. Pressing our way up, let's come up toward a nice seated place. From here, allow one leg to go forward and the other foot tucks into the thigh. So I personally have right leg forward, left foot tucked in. If you switched, that's okay. Just take the second side next time. And from here, it may be nice to have a block with you as something kind to rest your forehead down onto as we begin to release our spine all the way over. If the block's a little bit too low, use that second block, getting a bit more height. And otherwise, simply use this first minute or so as a chance to let the muscles themselves begin to release. That first 45 seconds to a minute or so of this stretch is actually about the muscle itself, the hamstrings, trying to get comfortable in that long arrangement. After about a minute, the muscle's like, okay, yeah, I'm good, I'm not in any danger. And so that's where the real work begins. Starting to let the fascia, the tendons, and the ligaments find length so that overall flexibility and circulation is improved. So as we're approaching that first minute mark, it may be the time for you to start playing with the flexibility, starting to lengthen from the low back, even just like think of a game of inches, just a slight lengthening. And then with that release, you feel how you're brought right back up to a good edge. So that's the edge we're continuously playing with. Sometimes you don't even realize it, but the edge moved and the pose got much more comfortable without you even necessarily doing anything different. So here we are just playing with that edge. If we felt like the edge extended further, we try to see if we can lengthen through our back and release that extra millimeter. Got about 3 more slow breaths. Try to keep it extra slow, as if each breath needed to last a full 10 seconds. And as we start to walk our hands back in, this left knee starts to flip open to the other side. So now instead of having the foot to the thigh, the foot's now tucked to the side. Your preference of toes pointed or foot flexed, whatever's more comfortable. And we'll take a little bit of time leaning backwards It's important when we're stretching the hamstrings to also get the quadriceps, the front part of the thighs. So that's where we're heading into. It might be nice to drop just the right elbow to the ground behind you. If that's too much, stay up on the hands. If the left elbow is also accessible, that's beautiful. You don't have to go any further, but occasionally there's people who are fine going all the way down onto their backs. We're enjoying just that gentle, subtle stretch. If it's ever too much in the knee, rise back up or let the knees start to slide wider to the side. As we mentioned previously, the edge moves as we spend time in these poses. So if the edge moves here and you need to get deeper, you feel that urge within you, what you can do is start to scoop the tailbone under and lift it up just a little bit. That'll suddenly allow the quadriceps and even up through the front side of the left hip, that psoas area, to start opening up even more. Now notice this pose is all about avoiding knee pain. So if at any moment that knee pain feels wrong, it feels sharp or stabbing or throbbing, that's the moment to get out of it, to back off to the point where you're much more comfortable again. We're approaching those last 3 breaths for this pose. As we start to exit, lift the chin up. Start to walk the elbows underneath you and then the hands press up. We're going to release back over the right leg. This time we're inching this left knee progressively wider out to the left side, allowing it to get closer and closer toward the direction of kind of like a partial split position. So again, our main motion is releasing over the right side. It might be nice to place a block under each elbow and have the block surrounding each side of the right leg. That'll help prop up your spine as you lean over the right side. And about every 3rd breath, every 4th breath or so, check in with the left knee. If it's completely comfortable, see if it wants to scoot back another inch. And then release back over the right side. Taking this time to breathe. Again, never getting into knee pain, but just progressively opening up intensely through those hips. Always know you can back off if it feels like it got to be too much. If you want to work on leaning over the right foot even more, perhaps this is a time where you can start seeing if your hands can reach around the right foot. Maybe your head is comfortable to rest down on the right knee. more time, those last 3 breaths for this direction. Slow journey up helps us to unwind left knee. And as we're heading toward the second side, let's take a moment with cobbler's pose. You're welcome to keep the heel scooted in as tightly as possible. If you're wanting to release forward, maybe 1 or 2 blocks in front of you gives you something comfortable to rest that forehead down onto. Allowing the hips to expand so that we're stretching and opening through all sorts of muscle groups that might be preventing us from that hamstring stretch. Nothing in our body is disconnected from anything else, meaning when I'm wanting to work on the hamstrings, I can't simply isolate the hamstrings, and I have to get all those wonderful surrounding areas as well. No pressure to go deeper, but if your hips are happy, maybe the block height is able to lessen here. Trying to let the breath slow down, focus all the way into the belly area, and take 3 more of those, slow, deep, and full. Hands find themselves on the ground. As the arms straighten, our back is lifted back up to a nice starting position. For the second side, left leg gets to extend out in front of us. And this time it's the right leg that gets to stay tucked into the thigh. If you used the block for the forehead before, perhaps it's nice to use one or both of them as you begin to release up and over, feeling that extra length starting to happen in that left side. This is that point where lowering the block height feels helpful, or straightening the low back to release a bit deeper. Start to explore any of those options. Maybe another chance to find length in the spine before you release back over again. Notice where the resistance comes from. Is it tightest through the middle of the thigh, through the back of the knee, or all the way up at the connection by the glutes? Let's take one more ginormous inhale. Exhale and rise. Start to flip the right foot around. The toes are now tucked to the side. Pointed or flexed foot, your preference. And once again, this is the point where we start to head backwards. I personally like to go pretty deep, so that means I like to leave the knees next to one another. Going a bit wider already would be much more gentle on the knee. So you choose. Leaning back, just propped up on the hands could be a great option. Perhaps dropping the left elbow down. That extra depth is helpful. Maybe right elbow as well. Or perhaps it's possible to do the full release. All the way down. Even head releasing onto the ground. Pay attention to how it feels. If the tailbone would like to scoop under and up to help you get to the perfect intensity, use it. If you need to back off a little bit, use that as well. Finding just enough. Just pay attention for a moment. What breath are we taking on right now? If we were to quantify it with a percentage of our lung capacity that's being expanded with our current breath, would you call it 10, 20, 30%? Like a very small breath, hardly passing in and out? Or is this an expansive breath like a bellow for a fire? Closer to 80, 90, 100%. Neither's right or wrong, but sometimes it's fun to try both extremes so that you can choose where you actually want to be, making it much more conscious with our use of the breath. Just take one more breath in, maybe a huge one. Exhale, head rises, elbows come under shoulders. Take your time propping your way up, and then start to let the right knee scoot a bit wider to the right side. It might be a good place to grab both of those blocks again, surrounding the left leg this time, and resting down onto the elbows as we lean back down toward that hamstring stretch. Perhaps notice how it's easier to take the roundedness out of the low back when we're doing this variation. It's even easier to go straight and then start to release. If you're experiencing that in your body, play with it. See if that helps you to find a whole new depth. Perhaps you're reaching a point of playfulness where you can start dropping your head down onto a block. Or even perhaps allowing your head to start to drop down toward the knee. Does your right knee want to open, or is it perfectly happy exactly where it is? Here we approach that final breath. Take a huge inhale. Release one more time through an exhale. And then start to rise, unwinding the legs. Coming immediately up onto hands and knees. If you do have those blocks, bring them underneath each hand. And we start to step our right foot forward. Starting off with a nice dragon pose. Left knee is back, right foot is forward. Allow the hips to sink downward. Trying to create a straight line from one kneecap to the other kneecap. This is another aspect of building up towards splits, is allowing that opening through the hips area. Is the left hip drops really far down. What I love about having the blocks here is that I don't have to have a rounded position through my back to try to reach down to the ground. Instead, I'm able to straighten my spine, even bringing my heart forward and through to drop my hips lower. Play with this placement for a moment. And then from this point, back the hips up over that left knee. Straighten through the right leg. Starting off at least with a straight spine, start to release over. As the elbows bend down, it might be possible to start resting down one or both elbows onto the blocks. Maybe it's possible to continue to release deeper and deeper. Just be playful with it. There's no end in sight when we're in yoga class. In some classes, it feels very much like I get to a certain pose and that's it. Here, there's no end. Keep on exploring as long as it feels good. Just kind of sinking into the depths that are available to us today. Heading even a step deeper from here, come back up onto the blocks if you have them. And we're going to rise up into pyramid pose. So tuck the back toes, straighten both legs, and we're coming up to a nice standing position. Both legs working towards straight, perhaps starting off again with spine straight. No, as I say spine straight to start off with, that does mean as you sink deeper, if there's a roundedness to the spine, that's okay. The thing that I'm preventing is this upper back or even the kind of middle back rounding. So instead we straighten it first, and then from that straight position, we continue to release. Now, in this pose, there's different areas that we'll play with. And so just play with what you've got available today. Perhaps it's possible to start playing with, and it's not quite easy to get all the way there, but maybe play with reaching one elbow toward a block, as if this is a goal to help us release even more. Another place to play with is starting to scoot the feet a little bit wider as we go. We've got one more variation we're going to be heading into in just a moment, and that's heading toward the full splits. So if you'd like to start expanding your pyramid pose a little bit wider at this point, that's fine. If you've reached a good spot of stillness to just explore for a little while, that's great as well. Just be playful with your body. What is it happy to do for you today? Now, if we're at that place where we're ready to start playing with splits, you've got some areas that you can play with. The first type is to keep the blocks under the wrists. Keeping the back leg lifted allows us to really mimic that shape of the splits. Another option is to drop the back knee down and just continuously scoot the legs a bit further apart. This is the variation that would help us with the passivity of it, to find it in much more of a released place. Another fun thing to do sometimes is actually to set a block under your glute so that you're just kind of floating here in this almost splits pose. So you can have different things to play with here. We've got just a little bit longer that we'll be exploring the splits shape. So just find whatever depth is feeling amazing through all the cells of this leg. You can even play with the back being upright or releasing forward over the front leg. Each variation is very different. So just a fun thing to play with. And we've reached that point where we're in about our last 3 good deep breaths. So then as we're preparing to come out of it, you want to make sure that you're safe. That means usually either the back knee bends and we kind of walk our hands over to the right side, or kind of we drop down, whatever is working for you here. When you get both knees onto the ground, let your hips wag. This can be just a simple left and right motion, or it can be more of a circle, kind of scooting the hips as far back as we can go, and then switching it out. Just loosen up all that tightness. Notice how open that right leg is willing to be at this moment in time. And from there, let's begin to play with the second side. So we're back onto our knees. This time, left foot steps forward. The first pose is that nice lunge. Setting the hands down if we have the blocks. You can even bring hands up to thighs if you don't have the blocks. Just kind of resting down as the heart lifts up, even forward. That's the direction that we're aiming. Deep stretching, deep expansion starting already. And notice how ready and receptive the body is to get into the second side. When we just finished half of a pose, our body's like, no, you're not done yet. You have to keep going. So that's where we're at. We're at that nice receptive place. Starting to head to the half splits, the front leg goes straight. We're over the back knee. Maybe you're just being right here with a very straight spine. Maybe there's that playfulness of trying to drop down to the elbows here. Just explore, be with the body. And here we can start rising up to play with our pyramid pose. Hands back to the blocks if you have those blocks. Tuck the back toes. Lift the back leg up to a nice standing place. I like to start off with a bit of a shorter stance. Start off with that straight spine, meaning I'm flattening my low back. Imagine those sitting bones and try to point them further back behind you. From this nice place, we begin our explorations. Again, if you'd like to stay exactly in this shape the whole time, there's nothing wrong with that. This is beautiful, especially if you're working on straightening that left leg. One area to be playful with for this pose is trying to get one elbow, here I'm playing with my right elbow, to try to get closer to a block. This is a little encouragement to try to get deeper here. Maybe you start playing with scooting the feet apart from one another. No pressure to go to any shape, and also no pressure between one side and the other. One side sometimes is just a lot more receptive, a lot more open. So no pressure at all. Continuously exploring. And perhaps starting to play with that full splits variation that feels good here. Maybe we stay up on blocks. Maybe we lean forward or stay upright with our spine. Maybe we slide one block under the left glute, allowing us space to continue to release. Just be playful with the body. What does it like right now? Sometimes left and right sides are very different. This side, it wants me to block to lower down even lower on the block that I'm sitting on. And so I continue to explore. And we find ourselves at 3 last slow, deep breaths. No pressure, go too fast. Just keep that breath flowing. Rising up in a very safe way after the third. We can scoot our blocks all the way off to the side. Scoot your belt or strap or scarf, whatever you have close to you, as we lower down onto our backs. Take just a moment for a happy baby pose or even just a hug around your knees. Just saying thank you to those hamstrings for all that they just did for us. That was a ton. A happy baby pose might feel wonderful if we play around with it just to feel how receptive those cells are to be in a long shape. And then here we're going to head into our last pose prior to Shavasana today, which requires the belt. The left leg releases long to the ground. Try to keep some energy shooting down through that leg. The right leg has 2 options depending on what material you have. If you have just sort of a scarf or just a normal belt, you're going to simply take the strap around the back side of the ball of foot and simply invite this leg closer to your body one more time. If you have a yoga strap that has a belt, you're going to connect the belt. So send it into the locked position and make sure the metal buckles are not directly at the other end of the loop so that you can set your head into the strap. You can tighten it if it feels like you want even more of a stretch going on. And this brings us into a back of the neck stretch at the same time that our right hamstring gets one more beautiful lengthening pose. So keep on playing with it as you're setting it up. And again, it's perfectly fine if you just are grabbing on and inviting the leg closer. There's plenty of space to play from there. Try to find a place that allows the knee to not have to be bent. If I'm going too close, it just naturally takes on this bent shape to help protect the hamstring. So try to back off just to the point where, oh yes, it's able to lengthen, engaging through the quadricep muscle, not hyperextending the knee. Arms are welcome to simply rest down at our sides as we're here just a little bit longer. By the way, if you're one that's using the grip of your hands, it might be helpful to do a loop or 2 around the wrist, so that way the wrist don't have to do quite so much effort to try to hold on. Good, let the right knee now take a bend as we start to switch out to the left ball of the foot being in the strap. Before you work on straightening left leg, take a chance for the right leg to extend long and feel how wonderful it is to be released, to get back into the hip opening, that psoas opening. And here we can start playing with left side. Make sure that it's at a place again where the knee can straighten out. If it's too much, sometimes we talked about earlier, one leg has more flexibility than the other. Well, we're working eventually toward balance. In this moment, it's okay to go to whatever extreme is possible and comfortable and okay. Two more breaths for this side. And after the second breath, completely set your strap off to the side, lower the leg down to the ground. Feel how immediately the body is so ready to release in a Shavasana. And so we're going to find ourselves here for the next couple of minutes, simply breathing, receiving, and opening. Begin to deepen the inhale and the exhale. Introducing little movements back to fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching all the way out like we're waking up first thing. Eventually roll over to a nice fetal position on one side. Enjoy another good breath in and out. And then we can press up into a nice seated position. Joining our hands together in front of the heart. We feel our connection with that thing that seemed impossible previously. We feel lighter toward it. Like energetically, we have made a connection. We feel this opening of the splits, how it's made us take that leap across the ocean toward the impossible physically. So now the cells of our body know how to do it at deeper levels. And so with this great leap to lead us onward into this marvelous day, let's wrap up the time we got to share together in this class with the sound of Om. Taking a deep inhale now. Om. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.